Well, hello everyone, and welcome to an F1 2013 game review. Now, before I get started, I just want to discuss what's going to happen on this channel. There probably won't be any content. There might be the odd piece of content, but probably won't be any until the 17th of June, apart from Formula Xbox Live comms. The reason is because my GCSEs obviously take priority. But afterwards, expect there to be like an F1 weekly episode each week, maybe with some guests each time as well. But anyway, now on to the F1 2013 game review. The first thing I'm going to discuss, first off, when they first announced what was going to be in the game, we obviously all knew that the game was coming, fully announced it in July. We obviously knew there was going to be an F1 2013 game. We already know that the present moment there is going to be an F1 2014 game, judging what people like Steve Hood are tweeting. But there were very high hopes for this game. There were classic content. When they announced they were doing classic content, I thought that the classic content would be the big feature of the game that most people play on. Because I thought that there'd be many people that would even run leagues on the classic content, and there'd be like classic content sprint mode and everything when they first announced it. I was a bit disappointed there wasn't. I think the reason why not very many people have done it, and I'm sure there is some classic content leagues out there, but I think the reason why there's not is there's no way you can make all the cars equal. I think, anyway, back to the topic. There are very high hopes for this game. It also our instant reaction was it just looks so much visually better. The graphics just look so much better than F1 2012. I don't know what I'm saying there, but on F1 2012. Than F1 2012, I mean. I'm repeating myself. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, the graphics is actually the next thing I'm going to talk about. The graphics are the best they've ever been on the Code Mods games, the best ever in an F1 game as well, because it looks so much visually better. They just look so much more real. I'm sure they'll look like 10 times better when they're on. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but they'll look quite a lot better when it's on next gen, which I'm presuming from what they're talking about, the F1 2014 will probably go on to next gen. That's my prediction, but I think it will be a lot better on next gen if it goes on to next gen. I think even if it doesn't, it will be a lot better because Grid Autosport's graphics look absolutely fantastic. Anyway, the graphics, I'd rate those an 8 out of 10, to be honest. The graphics just look so good. There are ways that they can be improved, like if you're a bit further away, like some bits of the car that are further away have a bit of rough textures, a bit pixelated, but still, on the whole, the graphics are good. Physics, kind of good and bad. First off, the car physics, fantastic. Best they've ever been. I'd rate the driving physics 10 out of 10. The way the controller vibrates as you steer. And when I went karting earlier in the year, in April, it didn't actually feel much different. The cars were heavy on the steering. I think that's why they included the vibrations when the car steers, just to get that impression. I'm sure it feels a lot better on the wheel, but it actually didn't feel much different to the karting, to be honest. I think it just feels very real, the handling does. Who knows what it's going to be like on F1 2014. I really hope for F1 2014 they don't remove the controller vibration as you steer, because that just feels absolutely fantastic. But now on to the bad points of the physics. This is not the driving model, but there's a glitch. It's what's been known as the side pod glitch. The side pod glitch, where basically sometimes if you just touch a side pod of another car, it can throw you off. And that's really affected the racing, because it's affected wheel-to-wheel racing, because many people, including me, many times have backed out of many manoeuvres just to avoid the side pod glitch. When with F1 20, I know the glitch was in F1 2012, but not as bad as it was on F1 as it is on F1 2013. I did experience it in the Mountain League Reserves Italy in Season 2, where basically I think it was Bloom that I touched on F1 2012, and it was enough to throw me round. But on F1 2013, there have been many times where I've just tapped a side pod, and it's just thrown me round. So I'd rate like the collision model. I'd rate that kind of. Also, the barriers are a bit oversensitive as well. So there's one time where it was James Lang. Obviously, you'll probably know who he is. He basically just tapped a barrier, and it was enough to end his race. So I think the collision model, I'd give a 4 out of 10, to be honest, because there's just too many glitches. And also the track physics as well, I'd give those a 7 out of 10. They do feel the bumps do have a very realistic effect. However, there is a glitch with the curbs, where particularly on Bahrain, you can just touch a curb and it can just throw you straight off. Also, not just Bahrain, in Monza I was doing a social race, and then I just used the curb like normally, and somehow it was on the extra Pescara. I was going at like 160 miles an hour, and somehow it just threw me off straight into like a 170 mile an hour crash. And obviously it was enough to end my race. So now the next thing I'm going to go through is the online. Now the online, I think it's just, this is the down point in this game. Because basically, the connection isn't as good. I'm not sure what it is. It could be the fact that the graphics are a bigger load for the connections. It could be the classic one. I'm not sure how it would, but that might be more memory. But the online has deteriorated. People are a lot more prone to disconnections. Where basically, in Formula Xbox Season 3, mid-season, I kept disconnecting like every race. It also occurred in other races, league races as well, which was quite annoying. I did have to put up with that until we got an Ethernet cable that connected directly to the hub, and I haven't actually had a disconnection since Formula Xbox Season 3 Belgium. But still, obviously I need to take action on that, but it was also clearly something to do with Codemasters as well, the game as well. Because on F1 2012, I barely ever disconnected. So it was clearly something to do with the game. Not sure what it was, but luckily we got that sorted out. But some others haven't been lucky enough to have access to an Ethernet cable. And I've heard that some people have actually stopped league racing because of their connection. They keep disconnecting every race. In fact, I was actually tempted to stop league racing in fact, I would probably not be league racing now if I didn't have those connection issues sorted, because I obviously have better things to do on a Saturday or Friday or whatever night than make all the effort to attend a race I'm probably going to disconnect from. But luckily I got that sorted. So I'm continuing league racing without having to worry about disconnections. Also, the other thing with the online is there are just so many glitches. First off, we had this glitch was sorted out. First off, we had the DLC glitch, where basically, if no one knows what it is, basically there was a classic edition where you had extra classic content and a normal edition, and people who didn't have the DLC, which was all the classic content was later released as DLC. All the people who didn't have DLC, who could join, all the people who had the DLC, what am I saying there? But all the people who didn't have DLC couldn't join any lobby that is hosted by someone who does have the DLC, which did create a lot of havoc when it came to hosting for league races. And I think it did cost some people a few points because the hosts weren't as good in some league races, and as a result there were disconnections. In the end, in the leagues, they just said, well, if they don't have the classic content, then it's their problem. So, but luckily Codemasters did sort that glitch out anyway, so so we don't have to worry about that. Then we had the phantom car glitch, which I think was the worst glitch with the online. Basically what it was I think it's a connection between you and another player going, or it was a player lagging so much on your screen that basically the way it portrays you on your screen is as a car doing like donuts and trying to basically destroy themselves, like crashing, like basically continuously accelerating no matter whether there's any barrier or not. And this glitch has caused the end of so many people's races. First off, a phantom car. Many drivers have been taken out by a phantom car before. First off, Stopmat, you'll probably know who he is. Stopmat was following Voracious Bloom in the Mammal League Reserves Hungary, Season 3, and suddenly Casey Legend, who was a phantom car on his screen, came out of nowhere, pulled in front of him when he had no time to react. Obviously, it wasn't Casey Legend's fault, as he was a phantom car on Matt's screen, and hit Matt off, and he had no time to slow his car down in time to avoid crashing out of the race. It also occurred to Arte as well when he was going down the straight in Korea, when Daniel, you'll probably know who these two drivers are, when Daniel basically appeared out of nowhere and took Arte out of the race. And it's not just phantom cars taking you out. The other way that the phantom car glitch has affected racing is if a driver is a phantom car on your screen, you have absolutely no idea where the driver is for real. For example, Formula Xbox Career Season 3, Drastic Devil, I'm probably sure you all know who he is as well, Drastic Devil was a phantom car on my screen. And I saw that he'd retired, and I actually had absolutely no idea that I had something to do with it. Basically on his screen, I took him out, but obviously I had no idea of that because he was a phantom car on my screen. I had absolutely no idea of it, and it caused the end, and it ruined his race, and he eventually retired. So that's another way a phantom car glitch ruined people's race. I didn't even know what they were talking about when they said you took out Devil, and then I realised when I was told that it was the phantom car glitch, and I think so that was quite a silly glitch. And also the final glitch is the auto retiring glitch, where basically if you cut a corner when on a flying lap, no matter how far into the session it is, it auto retires you, and that's your session over. And in fact, I've also heard instances where a driver where I think it was Stopmat who tweeted this, where he didn't even cut any corners, he was just going normally, and then it auto retired him. So that was the final glitch. So on the whole, I'd give the online a 3 out of 10. It just deteriorated. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the penalty system. This is a major improvement from F1 2012. I think this is the thing that's improved most. F1 2012, it was in fact awful. F1 2012, the game has the idea that if anyone made contact with you and spun as a result, no matter whether it is your fault, it was your penalty. And that has ruined many people's races as well. But that glitch has been sorted out, and it's just improved massively. So I'd give the penalty system a 9 out of 10. There are still glitches with it, where basically one time I was exiting the pits on Canada. I did actually get a penalty for crossing the white line, but then I got another penalty for passing under yellow flags, which was ridiculous, because firstly, there weren't even yellow flags to ignore, and secondly, I wasn't even beside anyone. Apart from those glitches where it randomly hands you out penalties for no reason, the penalty system is much improved. The next thing I'm going to talk about is game modes, and I think this is something to be improved. I've never really played on scenario mode because I find racing against the AI a bit boring because they just back out of every maneuver. I'll be going on to the AI later, but from what I've heard, I think it's good to have this addition to the game, because if you want to be like someone who only has like 10 minutes to play on the game, this is good as well. So, but I haven't, as I said, I haven't really played it much, but I think it's good they've got all this content added, because before on F1 2010 and F1 2011 it was all just single player, multiplayer, career mode, online, and that was it. Now we have Grand Prix, we have time trial, we have time attack, we have the online, we have co-op as well on the online as well. We have scenario mode, we have season challenge, and I think that's a really good, and also the classic content as well. I think this year's game is a really complete game. The classic content is actually going to be the thing I talk about next. Classic content, I thought, would be something that people would even run leagues on, but I think the reason why it's not been, the reason why there's not much leagues being run on classic content is the fact that you can't have equal cars, which kind of sucks. So someone will have an advantage over someone else. But I think the classic content's a good addition to the game, but I think really it's only really been played by people who like have 10 minutes to play for like quick race, not really been played online really. So I think the classic content is a good addition, but I think Codemasters could have put a bit more into it. Next thing I'm going to talk, final aspect of the game I'm going to talk about is the AI. I think the AI, a lot of high hopes for when racing against them, but it's been a disappointment for me. I think that's been one of the disappointments on this game. But the AI, I think, it's just disappointing, to be honest, because they still back out of every maneuver, even though it has improved from F1 2012, but they still back out of every maneuver you go for. And that's why I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. Or not. Yeah, I think a 7 is actually a bit generous, but could be better. And that's why I haven't really been playing on career mode. So I did actually do 2 races in career mode, and eventually I just got bored of it. Because and also you can just gain like 10 positions at the first corner as well. So it was just, I think that's been one of the disappointments of this game. So I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. My final review, I wouldn't say it was as good as F1 2012. F1 2012 was a fantastic game. Didn't have too many glitches apart from the penalty system. You could race wheel to wheel, even though I'm not as good as F1 2012 as I am at F1 2014. But this is why, in my league, which there is a link in the description to this video, that if you want to sign up to, there's still 6 spaces available in the first tier. If there is going to be a second tier, which won't be run by me if I do run a second, if there is a second tier. But that's why I'm doing these F1 2012 specials, because it's just a much better game, and I think it would be just good to revisit it. Anyway, I'd rate this game a 6 out of 10. I'd say this game's better than F1 2011. F1 2011 was I just didn't find like really like immersive. But F1 2010 and F1 2012 I think were better games. F1 2010 obviously was a great opening to the. Obviously there was F1 2009, but obviously that wasn't when the franchise started for real. F1 2010 I think was a great start to the franchise. And I think people still play it. Sadly I can't actually play it anymore because the disc has broken. But F1 2012 I think has been still the best game in the franchise. Anyway, thank you for watching this review. We'll see you tomorrow or Sunday, depending on when I upload it, for the upload of my Formula Xbox live com around my favourite track, Silverstone. See you then.